We're gonna rise, keep on rising.
It is 790 KABC. This is Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast. If you're listening on KABC, thanks for sticking around. If you're catching us as a podcast, hey, do us a favor and hit like and subscribe. And if you're watching us on YouTube, hi, how you doing? It'd be great if you just hit that like button and subscribe. And now I feel dirty for having said that in my career. I'm Matt West. I'm your host. With me is Christina Pascucci, KTLA,
Hello.
Fox News. Welcome back to another hour of inspiration and hope and just diving deep into all that's good in terms of generosity and
People.
help.
It's a dose of optimism, I think, that we all need, while also keeping it real, talking about some of the major issues that are hitting people as they continue to recuperate from the fires, some other major things that are happening in the city and surrounding area. And today's episode, I'm especially excited for because we're going to get a lot of wisdom.
Yeah, I think we're going to go deep. I mean, look, there is so much uncertainty happening in the world all around us, like right now, but really every day. It's not just this immediate moment, every day. And sometimes, like, you're pushed. It comes up all the time. You got to have faith. But when life really, really challenges you, like the Eaton fires, the Palisade fires, and your place of worship, your place to go and talk about your faith is no longer there for you, how does that change your relationship with faith? So our first guest is going to try to help us understand a little bit what that's like. Let's take a listen to this man's experience.
The motto at Community UMC, I came here in July and brought my daughter here. I said, it's going to be great. And it has been. We have fallen in love with the city. Methodists are often, we have to serve at the pleasure of the bishop. And I care deeply about the bishop, but I've said, I'm not moving. I have 20 years till retirement, and I'm going to retire out of here, but also retire here and to rebuild this town with all of you. Because we need to show our children and youth that there is hope and we have a chance. Sadly, I wish this didn't happen, but now is the time not to be divisive about this or that, but it's the time to rise up just as the Change Reaction does, not worried about here or there or who you are, but just to help.
Unbelievable. We have with us Pastor John Shaver, Pacific Palisades United Methodist Church. What a story, man.
You had just moved here in July, and all this went down. Tell us, your experience and what happened.
Well, in July, we just moved here, and as I shared in that piece, and peace brought a little tears to my eyes just to even think about what I was saying that day. We moved up to Pacific Palisades. My family were all runners. Most of us are walkers and just loved the town, loved walking down and having people say hi to us along the way. Just came back from vacation, or we were still on vacation, the 6th, 7th, and 8th. But as we came back, the cloud of smoke started after a breakfast where I was doing some work to talk about what we were going to do in Nicaragua on a trip. And life just changed drastically at that point.
I'm so sorry because I know you lost both your church and your home.
Yes.
And
some income property. The church had half a block of Sunset as outreach income property, too.
Well, the history of Pacific Palisades Community United Methodist Church is fascinating. You were telling us a little bit about how it's described as a church that built a town.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So as the story would go, sometime about a little over 100 years ago, there was a Chautauqua movement, which was a movement to bring about dialogue, peace, literature, art. There's Chautauquas all over the country. And so the Chautauqua movement started. There was a service. People got excited. They wanted to start moving to, I'm sure, a beautiful place at that time, as it is this time. And at that point, the Methodist movement started. A church that was built in 3 phases began. And here we are today. The alphabet streets are all named after Methodist bishops and missionaries, and a lot of other history throughout the town just involving United Methodism.
Wow.
I mean, you've had such a role in the community. The church has had such a role in the community. And then it's erased. The place is just, it's gone.
Yeah.
completely gone. So it's not just losing a place.
Yes.
It's losing history,
Yes.
and it's also the erasure of a place for people to go.
Yes.
Tell me what that's been like as the leader in a church that is
Sure.
usually a place of refuge. Now there's no place of refuge for you or for your congregation. What's that been like these last couple of months?
Sure. No, thanks. We just probably about 2 weeks after we started an outreach center. Part of Methodism is just reaching out to the community, and when we take our vows as pastors in the United Methodist Church, we say that we are a pastor to the whole community and to be there for the community, irregardless of what they may be or where they're at in life or what denomination they may be along the way or a faith tradition. So we started an outreach center. So a couple of reporters have asked me, what do you do now that the church is gone? I'm like, the church is not gone. The church is still there. The church is all of us, the people, as we're called together to be the body of Christ, to reach out to others along the way. And the walls, of course, are gone. But over the last few weeks, as the debris has been cleared, we're keeping special pieces such as the cross on the top that we can use, the cornerstone and other pieces just to remind them of the history that we talked about.
What do you say to people when they feel like everything that has given them some sort of solid foundation is gone,
Sure.
whether it's their home or their church?
Yesterday, I was invited and blessed to be a guest speaker at the Conejo Valley sunrise service, 6 a.m. I'm not a morning guy, but there I was. And part of my message was to share what our story was, but also to share that we all have stories in life. And so I want people, when they hear our story, to enter into their story. And I want people to be able to listen to other people's stories along the way so that we can listen and that we can work together along as we go along. Because my story is a drastic story that happened in January, but other people have stories that have gone on through life.
I don't want to minimize your story in the middle of all of this.
Sure.
It's not just this place of worship, right? And you having to be a beacon of hope within the community, but
Sure.
you yourself lost your home in
Yes.
all of this. So how has that been for you as having this responsibility to a community, but also to your family and then to yourself, the real emotional impact of that?
Sure.
What's that been like for you?
I would say just as a husband and dad to 15 and 18-year-old daughters, watching everything burn, as much as I lost a number of artifacts in my office, I just, there's a sense of guilt in me for moving to town and accepting the position. We love the town and we want to stay, but just thinking about my wife and daughters, it's pretty tough. And thinking about the members of the church and the years that they've lived there and all that they've lost, and some just having a tough time rebuilding because they bought their houses 40 years ago, and now to have to think about all the money they may have to spend. So that part is tough, but I see the community coming together and the church wanting to help others, others like the Change Reaction wanting to help. So there is that hope, but yeah, it's a tough time right now.
When the walls of the church are no longer there,
Mm-hmm.
but as you said, the church is still there.
Sure.
What does that look like as a faith leader? What does that look like for members of the congregation? Like, how can they feel that sense of support? How can they feel that sense of belonging when there's nothing physical to sort of hang on to? Like,
Sure.
how are you manifesting that for folks?
Yeah, we started on Zoom just gathering together so people could see each other's eyes. Then we had some gatherings out in parks after that just so people could come together as a community, because that's one of the vital things, I'm sure for many faith traditions, but especially for Methodism, just to be together. So we worked really hard to bring that together. We even had our Easter service. Today, all the debris will be cleared, but yesterday we had one block of a patio where we were able to hold our second, if you will, in-person service at the church on our campus. And we got to have a surprising two children wanted to be baptized, or two families wanted to have their children baptized yesterday. So I think, even though everything's going to be cleared today, we in a way, ended the walls and all the stones with a baptism to remind us of the hope that God has for us.
Beautiful. I know when bad things happen, sometimes people of faith will look and say, why does God let good things or bad things happen to good people? Have people in your congregation brought up that piece of this? And if so, what do you say to them?
I think along the way, it's not so much the people at the church, but one receptionist, she said, well, there's a reason for everything. And I said, we got to change our language on that. I said, there's not a reason. God did not cause this fire to happen. God was in the evacuation orders. God has been in my neighbor that I shared about who tried to put our house out with a garden hose. God has been in the change reaction, bringing in to help us in many ways. God has been in with the greater Methodist churches and other churches coming to just share prayers, generosity, and hope along the way. So I would say most of our church, we have a great deal of hope just because we see how God's working through people to help all of us at this time.
What can folks do if they want to just experience what it's like for the community and for the Methodist Church right now? Like if you're holding these sort of open services and whatnot, where can folks get involved if they're curious and they want to learn more and feel more?
So if they want to go to palisadesmethodist.org, you can get on the email. I'll go get you a resource pass or a pass at the Resource Center to come up and help us at the Outreach Center because we could use a lot of volunteers to continue to help us. We want to be there for the workers and others who are coming into town. So we still have checkpoints, so it's a little difficult at the moment.
Sure.
But if you get in touch with us over the website, we'll get you in. I'll show you around town, and we'll put you to work.
Unbelievable. Pastor John Shaver, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Appreciate you.
I mean, this is an amazing conversation. Whether you are religious or not, whether you have faith or not, you got to believe in something, and this is a pretty powerful hour. We're going to come back in just a couple minutes, talk a little bit more, and hear from the Jewish community in the Palisades. This is Change Reaction Radio on 790 KABC.
You are listening to 790 KABC, Change Reaction Radio and Change Reaction Podcast. I'm Christina Pascucci alongside Matt West.
Hello.
This is an hour of power, of so much wisdom, inspiration, hope, as we hear from different faith leaders from both the Altadena and Palisades communities. And we are about to hear from an incredible man, Cantor Chayim Frenkel of Kehilat Israel, also known as KI. Matt and I had the honor of meeting him during the first Palisades event that was thrown by the Change Reaction days after the fires broke out, where they brought together 1,000 people from the Palisades community. It was so powerful the way he brought everyone together to sing.
It was really quite a moment. We'll probably get into music with the Cantor in just a couple minutes, but you know what struck me was one of the things that he said about the Change Reaction and why we were there. And for folks who haven't been paying attention to what's been going on, the Change Reaction really stepped in the beginning of these fires and started writing checks immediately to families who were affected.
Thousands of people in Palisades and Altadena. So we were actually in West LA trying to serve the people of the Palisades and just put checks in people's hands. And I thought it was really impactful because people think, oh, Palisades, it's a wealthy area, people don't need help. But there's so many people who were struggling so much beyond what people ever thought, and also businesses and people who are working in the area, and you know, it goes on. But seeing their reaction, I will never forget the tears in their eyes. But it wasn't just about the checks, and the Cantor got it. Take a listen to what he told the crowd.
What they have done here this afternoon in gathering us together, it was so important for them not just to give us sustenance in the form of means, of a few critical and crucial dollars to help us move forward. But they wanted us together to heal together. They wanted us to be one. That's why they brought us here.
And that was it. That's the whole game right there. Cantor Frenkel, welcome to Change Reaction Radio.
I'm deeply honored. Thank you for having me, and God bless Change Reaction and the two of you and everyone in the organization. this is a real privilege to be here, and thank you for everything that you continue to do for the community. In that, using that word I used back at that, what I consider an evening that still continues to offer me medicine to heal me. When I'm down, I go back to that day, and I wish, and the power of community just cannot be understated. The power of community, and that's truly what brought that healing.
I mean, we're just the messengers here, and we spoke to Pastor Shaver just last segment here about what it's been like for his community. I'd love to hear what it's been like for your community too.
There's so many consistent themes that are being experienced by everyone in the Palisades in Altadena. Is the pain and the loss and the grief. I turn back to Glennon Doyle's book, Love Warrior, and she writes that grief is the receipt that we hold up to the world to show that we once loved. And
wow.
And I truly believe that we're all wearing that receipt of grief because we truly once loved not just the physical nature of the brick and mortar, but we loved the memories and watching our children grow up in not just the home, but in the community. And watching the community, losing the community for me is something that I am mourning. That is my mourning. And we Jews mourn for a year because we have to go through all of the firsts that we have to experience without our loved one. And for me, it's going through all of the first. When we gathered the community together yesterday, I'll just give you an example, a day that was a beautiful morning, and 40 members of our community who they settled temporarily in Playa Vista. And there were 40 of us, and it was, no one wanted to leave. It was just so powerful being together, hugging one another. And enjoying each other's company, sharing each other's experience. There's nothing better and more profound and meaningful than living in community.
I mean, and that's the thing about having a place of worship, right? And having a religious community is the consistency with which you can be with your community, right? Weekly services, multiple times a week sometimes, right? So when you don't have that, when the community's been displaced, how do you keep the community together when you don't have the consistency anymore?
It's been very challenging, as you can imagine. And I don't want to say this in a negative way, but we took it for granted. We took our lives for granted. We took it, just come on, and services, come on in, doors are open. But when we lost everything, we realized the power and what we are missing. We realized the void was so abysmal. And when we gather, and we Jews are not, it's not. We're familiar with
struggle
change and struggle and moving. We don't, we never hang our hat because we don't know how long that we're going to be able to stay in one place. We're familiar with being refugees and immigrants, and as are many different kinds of different people and different faith-based. But for Jews, certainly, we've wandered for many, many years. And what the synagogue did is it brought us together. And now we're making and bringing the community to them. It's KI in your neighborhood. Wherever you are, that's where KI is.
And why don't you tell us a little bit about what KI is and what it does for the community, and maybe how it differs from what people may understand as like a typical synagogue and congregation?
I think what will really accent the powerfulness of what KI does is the day of and after the fire. So people would text us, me and the rabbis and community leaders, and they would say, we lost our home. And the next question, and they could have gone on and deal with their own grief. The next question is, how is the synagogue? Is it still up? Is it still standing? And when the community realized that the synagogue is still standing, they realized that there is so much hope and faith to rebuilding and coming back. Because part of their lives is the synagogue. I've always told our B'nai Mitzvah students, our children, that I want you to consider an invisible bridge from our synagogue into your home. Your home is a sanctuary. So you come to the larger sanctuary, but your home is a sanctuary, and the two are connected. And we're a safe haven, just like all of the churches in town, and the tragedy of losing all of those churches and all of our brothers and sisters in the sacred work that we all do in bringing community together and in offering joy and offering sustenance and offering healing and offering support. So KI is a tremendous an anchor for the community, for the Jewish community, and 25% of our membership are not Jewish.
That's fascinating. I want to go back to something you were talking about earlier around the idea of grief and grieving and how the Jewish community, you grieve for a year so you can experience all the firsts. I think in our culture and society, so often we try to get away from the grief and we don't want to feel the fear, the sadness. People say, oh, just, suck it up and let's move on and we could do this. But the grieving is so important to the healing. So what do you say to people who are going through any myriad of issues, whether it's the fires or a personal health situation or whatever the case might be? What does it look like to truly let yourself grieve?
To surrender to vulnerability. You must be vulnerable. And I think what your comment is part of why people are so afraid of it, is they're so closed off to it, is they're afraid of that free fall and of being vulnerable. But that vulnerability is where the divine lives, and it allows you to go deep, go inside, and stay low to the ground and surrender to that pain and realize why you have the pain, because you had the love, because you had the connection, because you had the family, your loved one, your community. So just surrender to being vulnerable, and know, as it says in the 23rd Psalm, walking through the shadow valleys, the valley of death, that our arms, the arms of the community are there to hold you up and to bring you solace and comfort in that process of being vulnerable.
That's allowing yourself to live the full human experience.
Correct.
It's really beautiful. And so when you talk about, as a cantor, you use song to help people heal. And I'll never forget watching you lead 1,000 people at that Palisades event in singing in unison, "We Shall Overcome." People were holding hands. This was the first time they saw each other since the fires. And they were chanting those 3 words with tears streaming down their faces. And it was such a profound moment. Can you talk about the power of singing and music to heal?
Well, everyone knows it's a universal language. And I think, back to the point of vulnerability, what music allows people to do, it kind of tricks them, because they are okay being vulnerable with music, because it's something safe about it.
You can almost lose yourself in it.
It's safe,
Yeah.
And words are important, but when that music is added to the words, it creates a dynamic that just allows you to be vulnerable and to be open and to emote. And God bless the two of you for what you're doing. And Change Reaction is, I think, the greatest gift and blessing in this community, and it should be modeled all over the world, not just the country.
Oh, couldn't agree more. And blessings to you too, and thanks for what you've done, because you've performed all over the world, including Carnegie Hall, and of course, in these recent devastating fires to help people heal. So you're truly doing God's work.
No, thank you, and thank you both, and amen to that.
If people want to participate in KI, right, as you said, some of your members aren't even Jewish.
No, they're married to they're married to a member of the Jewish faith, but they are as much a part. I want to thank you for saying that. As much a part of our community as the Jewish member of their family.
How can folks get involved in KI, especially now?
OurKI.org. OurKI.org. We stream every service. We stream every experience, every holiday, especially now because we're so dispersed. OurKI, OurKI.org.
Unbelievable. Cantor Chayim Frenkel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My honor.
For being on Change Reaction Radio.
Blessings to you and your family.
Thank you
as well.
we are going to turn our attention to what's been happening in Altadena coming up in just a little bit. So I hope you'll stick around for part of that conversation. It is Change Reaction Radio, the Change Reaction Radio podcast on 790 KABC.
We're gonna rise, keep on rising.
It's 790 KABC. Welcome back to Change Reaction Radio, the Change Reaction Radio podcast. I'm Matt West, joined by Christina Pescucci. Christina, this hour has been
So good.
It's been intense. We have been talking to faith leaders from all across Southern California. We spent the first half of the show really dialing in and talking to members of the faith community in the Pacific Palisades. So now for this segment of the show, we kind of want to turn our attention to Altadena and the Eaton fires. And that's really like where the beginning of this whole kind of professional relationship started with you and me. Was we were shooting these events that were being held by the Change Reaction. We talked about one that was held in the Palisades immediately after the fires for the Palisades community, and then a week later, I think, maybe 10 days later,
Altadena, which was even bigger, more people received checks, and really filling the gaps and the immediate needs of fire survivors who are reeling from one of the biggest tragedies to ever strike our region.
I mean, it was something else. You know, the first one we were at the YMCA in West Los Angeles. The second one we were at Pasadena Community College, and in the gym there, it was filled. I mean, the floor was completely filled. And then the bleachers, almost all the way up to the rafters, was filled with people who had been affected. And one of the people who came to speak at that event is in the studio with us now. An incredible speaker. I want to share a little bit about what he said during that event. This is Bishop Charles Dorsey.
I believe that you love God, you love his people, you love his creation, and we will rise together. The fire may have destroyed our homes, our businesses, and our churches, but it has not destroyed our hope, it has not destroyed our faith, nor has it destroyed our ability to help each other. We will rebuild.
Unreal. Bishop Charles Dorsey, Lifeline Fellowship Christian Center. Welcome to Change Reaction Radio, man.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here.
You are so talented as a speaker, as a leader. We have so much to talk about today, but I just have to know, was that a skill you developed over time, being able to move crowds of people like that? How young were you when you started speaking to crowds of people?
Well, thank you for the compliment. Speaking has actually come naturally. I love talking. I'm a people's person. I believe I got that from my mother. She loves people, and I believe just the opportunity to help people sometimes comes naturally.
You said that day, the fire cannot take our humanity. Have you seen it challenge people's faith?
It has. Because of the devastation is so hard, and the reality of tomorrow is harder and harder. It has been a challenge. But I believe with adversity gives us opportunity to build faith.
And strengthen it.
Yes.
What's that like for you as a faith leader, leading a congregation where there's no church? I mean, if you go to your website, it's striking, lifelinefcc.org. One of the first images that you see is the church, and it's been destroyed. So what's that been like for you as a faith leader, trying to keep the faith and keep the community faithful?
Well, it has allowed me to become a better leader because I've allowed patience to, as the scripture says, let patience have its time, or let patience have its perfect work. So I've just made a conscious effort to listen better, listen to the community, listen to church members. The word called vent, just let them exhaust themselves with their frustrations, and then find where I can try to help them in this process.
How do you maintain your light, right? If everybody's coming to you and venting, right, and they're pouring their frustrations into you, that can feel pretty dark. That's got to be a lot, and then compounded by everything and the enormity of what's happened in that community in the aftermath of the fires. How do you keep your light from being dimmed when you're being a vessel like that?
Well, one of the principles I try to use, I believe God has graced me with it, is to transfer things that I can't change to Him. I speak to the Lord in a way where He's talking back to me, but sometimes He's silent. But His word says to cast all your cares upon Him because He cares. So I believe God has graced me with not trying to carry things that are too heavy for me. And Lord, this is yours. These are the children that you truly love, and I give this to you. I really practice that, especially now.
They say He does not give us anything we can't handle.
Mm-hmm.
Something that really struck me about what happened in Altadena that I think a lot of people didn't realize is the rich Black history and heritage of that community. And when we were doing interviews a couple months back and talking to some of the people within the community, they were saying that historically the Black church has been somewhere where people come in times of deep, profound loss or need or, like a struggle. And to have that gone really shook them to their core.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that part of the story?
Yes, the Altadena area, Pasadena area is where my family migrated from the South to. So that's been home. I love the city, love the area, love the community, love the diversity. And it's always been a core to our family, and we are proponents of gathering, and we use our church. We just redid the multi-purpose room, and so it was a historic landmark too. It's been there since 1973. Went from a restaurant to a church, and to see it just be completely devastation. So, yes, the land, the area, there are proud people there who have worked hard to purchase homes, and to see it gone in one day, it's been rough, it's been tough. But Change Reaction came and really was a blessing, and it still is, and we appreciate it.
I mean, it's not just enough for us to hold up the community where we can with financial resources when asked of us, right? But it's really about you creating an opportunity for people to have their voices heard, right? And really sort of elevate what they're going through. So I'd love to ask a little bit about what you've heard, what your congregation has been telling you, and what your community has been telling you. And, look, we've learned so much in the last few months. What are the things that you've heard, and what are the things that you've been learning through this experience?
Well, we've tried to assist, especially our seniors, in making pivotal decisions. Try not to make any in a haste. Allow us or those who have your best interest that have experience to review every contract that you consider signing, because there's so many voices out there, some great and some not so great. And one of the concerns that they're having is the time that the rebuild may take because of the displacement. You have people that will soon have to discover how to pay for rent and their mortgage if the home was not paid off fully. So those concerns are starting to arise. But the biggest one is really keeping them focused in terms of what not to do in reference to people that say they want to help.
And what does that mean? Can you
Tell us
unpack
more.
that a little bit more? That's really juicy.
Well, meaning there are people out there trying to take advantage of their home being lost, their property, their business being closed, and even our church has faced solicitors that are trying to take advantage of the opportunity and take advantage and acquire land. Acquire property.
I've heard people talk about this. It never ceases to amaze me. You see the best and worst of humanity at times like this sometimes. So is there a specific example? Someone will come and they'll say, oh, we'd like to acquire your land, or what do they say?
Well, it goes even deeper. Sometimes if they get access to your phone, sending or emails, sending DocuSigns.
Oh, gosh.
With a hidden title, or a title that resembles a reputable company, very professionally made, wouldn't know it.
Especially if you're a senior and not used to technology.
Yes, those are the most vulnerable.
We talked about earlier, before you came on the show, you were telling me that a big concern you have is about soil remediation and removal, because the way the church is impacted by the rules is making it harder to see some of that toxic soil removed. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, the original plan for debris removals has been places of worship and commercial buildings were not in the plans for debris removal of phase 2. So that immediately puts us at a disadvantage because debris removal, we've gotten estimates to run as high as $275,000 and as low as $95,000.
Jeez.
So that's a total hit that could be erased with us being included in the second phase of the debris removal.
And you say second phase because the first phase is when they came in, they took out all the batteries, all the immediate toxic debris. But then the second phase is when they really get into the soil and remove some of those other contaminants that can make people sick long term, correct?
Of course.
So
yes.
what would your plea or message be to if, a senator, a state senator, or a politician was listening to this? What's the ask?
Well, the ask is to include majority of the area because a lot of the buildings that were built in Altadena were built pre-asbestos stage. So a lot of the products that are in the walls, roofing, flooring are asbestos made. And the unfortunate side that if they're not included, the area would become still a wasteland.
What's the timeline for rebuilding?
I say timeline, we're hearing anything from a year and a half to 3 years.
This is a long haul that we're all in together. Yes. And I think it's important to note that, look, the fires are gone, but the tragedy remains and the struggle still remains. And I think that's one of the things about the relationship between the Change Reaction and people like you, right? And your congregation is we're in it with you and we're in it for the long haul. And we just want to stay in touch and keep up with your story.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having us.
I really appreciate you being here. This is Bishop Charles Dorsey. You can find out more about Lifeline Fellowship Christian Center at lifelinefcc.org. Charles, you'll come back and talk to us. You'll keep us updated as things continue to roll out, because this is clearly not the end of the conversation and not the end of the story.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having us.
Appreciate you, man. So we're going to talk a little bit more about what's been happening in Altadena and hear from members of the Muslim community. That's all coming up next. It's Change Reaction Radio on 790 KABC.
Welcome back. You are listening to Change Reaction Radio on 790 KABC and the Change Reaction podcast. We are so happy you're with us. We hope you have felt the impact of this hour with faith leaders from both Altadena and the Palisades area as they respond to the fires, which is going to be a years-long process of recovery, and faith plays such an important part in the healing for so many people. I'm Christina Pascucci alongside Matt West.
It is good to be here, and yeah, this hour has been quite the conversation.
Yeah.
We've heard from members of the Methodist community, the Catholic community, the Jewish community, and so, it's only fitting that we close out the hour hearing from members of the Muslim community. One of the things that struck me a couple of weeks ago, actually this was now, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago, we were in Altadena and shooting footage for Change Reaction's media output. We tell stories. We're all over YouTube. We're all over Instagram. We'll tell you all about that at the end of the show. But seeing the mosque, seeing the Masjid Al-Taqwa Mosque, and just the only thing left standing was the sign. And to see 30 plus years of
so much history
of history in the community just in ruins. It was quite a striking thing. And so with us today, joining us for this part of the show is Aaron and Delores Abdus Shakoor. Did I get that correct?
Yes.
The co-founders of the first mosque in Altadena, along with their son Jihad. Thank you so much for joining us, and we're so looking forward to just hearing more from you and this community you've built within Altadena.
How has that been for you? You know, I want to go back to the fires immediately, right? I mean, as co-founders of the mosque, as pillars of the Muslim community, you know, in Altadena, when you first learned that the mosque had been affected, what was that like for you?
It was somewhat unbelievable, and heartbreaking, and just trying to wrap your mind around it. It was a big adjustment.
What does the Muslim faith teach about responding to adversity and tragedy like this?
Well, we always call on Allah and ask Allah to guide us through it, and try to see what benefits we're going to get, how to learn to get through this. It's just an obstacle that we have to figure out how to work through it, and we have faith that we're going to complete our effort to rebuild and to keep the mosque together. So we're just strengthening our faith and asking for Allah to give us the strength to work our way through it. And we feel very confident that that's going to take place.
And does the Muslim community who's been a part of your mosque for so many years feel the same way? Do they share the same faith? Do they share the same, conviction?
I say yes, for the most part, yes. They're very confident that we're going to be able to rebuild, and they're willing to support that effort and financially and morally, spiritually, in any way they can. Our community has always come together for any project that we put in place. They've always answered 100%. So whatever we establish or whatever we set our goals to do, our community has responded 100%.
And a lot of people might not realize, the vastness of the Muslim community within Altadena. What percentage of Altadena is part of the Muslim faith?
I would say a small percentage. I wouldn't. I have no way to say the percentage. And I don't think of those terms. But it would be a very small percentage of Altadenas that are there. We have people who are there just about all the time, and then some don't come, and they come admittingly, they come at different intervals. They're not consistent as others, and then there's those who come to the mosque every day.
When you talk about consistency, I'm wondering in the aftermath, right? And look, so many people were displaced, right? And so without a place to go, with the mosque being destroyed and so many people being evacuated, what's it been like in terms of connecting with your community and having a place to go and having, a place to gather in faith and in prayer?
Well, that's we have a place to go, and we've managed to. For the first few weeks, we were going into different mosques in the area, and Delores, and various places, San Gabriel. We didn't have a specific location, and Jihad and another brother by the name of Amir, they got together and initially found some places that we could be using on a temporary basis, and we're still doing that. So we have a place, and we're confident that we're going to find a permanent place. We just have a temporary location now that we're going from month to month with. And inshallah, we will have a permanent location for at least a year. Yeah.
What are you seeing in that temporary place? Are you seeing people showing up consistently? Do you find that their connection to the faith and to the practice is deeper somehow now with this challenge in front of them?
Well, the participation as far as coming to our main prayer activity is Jummah prayer, and as far as that is concerned, our number has diminished quite a bit.
Understandably,
you're right, and so. Possibly half the individuals are meeting at our location in Pasadena, and then there are formed other locations in Altadena that they're meeting at, and different people are meeting at different locations. So it kind of not just going to two different areas, and we end up going to the one in Pasadena. That's where we've been frequently.
And Delores, I'd love to hear from you too about your experience, because you guys have been through so much personally. You lost your family business, your home, and your mosque, from what I understand. Is that correct?
Yes.
And so how do you find strength through all of this?
We just have to trust in Allah. And I find it to be something that I just can't wrap my mind around, really. It doesn't seem real. Our everyday lives just keep going on. So we just have to keep going on. The community has responded right away. They wanted to know, okay, where are we going to meet? It wasn't like, oh, no, we don't have a place to go. No, it was, where are we going to meet? So they depended upon us to make sure that would happen.
That must feel like a big responsibility.
Well, it's a big responsibility, but it didn't seem burdensome. It was just a challenge. And so we wanted to make sure that the community members of Masjid Al-Taqwa could still come together and meet together, pray, go through Ramadan together. It was just something that we just buckled down and tried to make sure that it happened, and it did.
Which is another crazy piece of this story, is that the fires broke out 1 month before Ramadan. So Jihad, you found you were pivotal. You played a crucial role in finding a location for people to meet and be able to still observe such a sacred time.
Yeah, we like my mother was saying, we had a lot of community support that immediately started. Actually at the beginning, we had a lot of support from the broader faith-based community. We actually held our first Friday prayer at First AME Church in Pasadena. And, we were blessed to meet with Reverend Campbell and members of the church, actually from a press conference where LA Voice was involved in, and kind of we made that connection. Even though my mother's family attended that church in the years before, so we were very familiar in the community. But they actually gave us our first, I believe, 2 Fridays. They offered us their church hall, and that's where we held our first 2 Friday prayers. And then we, with other members of the community, we're helping, trying to look for locations. So we got the Jackie Robinson Community Center across the street from the park, where we've been there every Friday. And then we got a lot of outreach from the broader community. We ended up at New Horizons School in Pasadena for the month of Ramadan. And things just continued to grow from, we were offered 2 days, then it was 4 days, and it was 5 days, and it was 6 days a week. And we ended up there 7 days a week. So it just, it was a beautiful, collaborative and support effort.
We're going to run out of time so soon. These blocks go by way too quickly. But before we do, I just have to ask, you've been married for more than 50 years, Delores and Aaron. What is the secret to a happy marriage? Because you're a beautiful example to so many.
Ladies first.
Well, there's the answer right there.
Yeah, exactly. Mic drop. All you need to know.
Well, I think family background. We've known each other. We've lived in the same town since we were in elementary school. But I think it's family background. I think it's like family.
Shared values.
Yes, values. And so you just grow with that, and then it's friendship, and we like each other.
That helps.
That helps. If folks want to follow your journey to rebuilding and maybe see what it's like now with the community sort of in temporary spaces, where can they find you on social media to follow along with your journey, guys?
The website is altaqwamasjid.com. That That is the website where you can log in and capture the information. So it's they've been working on the board has been working on an upgrade to the website, and that's where everything's being posted at the moment.
We're going to have our first newsletter that's going to come out on the website this coming week.
Amazing.
So we plan on continuing with that and trying to keep the community up to date and informed.
Incredible. Well, we'll make sure to link it to this episode of the podcast, too. If you're not listening right now on KABC and you catch it on the podcast, we'll have all of that information for you. So, Aaron, Delores, Jihad, thank you so much for joining us here on Change Reaction Radio. What a powerful hour, Christina.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh.
So good. If you want to follow along with us and you missed any part of this show on KABC, you can find us on the web at changereaction.org. You can watch this as a show on YouTube at thechangereaction.org or follow along every day at _Change Reaction. I think that's enough of the socials. I'm Matt West. You can follow me at Bonafide Matt West. Christina Pascucci, it's
at Christina Pascucci. Oh, it's a doozy. Pascucci is the way you spell the last name.
There it is. And there we go. It's Change Reaction Radio and the Change Reaction Radio podcast on 790 KABC. We'll see you next time.